Hingað er komin Zoe Konstantopoulou. Hún grískur stjórnmálamaður á vinstri væng, var forseti gríska þingsins tíma, þá á vegum Syriza sem vinstri sinnaður stjórnarflokkur í Grikklandi, flokkur Tsipras, forsætisráðherra. Hún gekk úr flokknum og núna búin að stofna sína eigin stjórnmálahreyfingu sem heitir Frelsisleiðin, og hún mjög andvíg því hvernig Alþjóðagjaldeyrissjóðurinn og Evrópusambandið hafa komið fram við Grikki, þessi svokallaða þrenning. Welcome to this program, Zoe.
Thank you very much. Very nice to be here, and let me say I didn't understand a word you said, but I love your language.
Yes, I speak some Greek, but I'm not going to use it on this interview. I think it's easier for us and the listeners to do this in English. Tell me, are there signs of recovery in Greece?
No. Greece is being thrown into a big well of misery, of recession, and of removal of democracy. And in order for Greeks, the Greek people, because there's no country without the people, as you very well know, in order for Greece to recover, in order for Greeks to recover, we have to gain back democracy in our country, which has been removed by the creditors. We have to gain back our freedom, which has been taken away by the creditors. We have to gain back our rights, which are violated every day by the government and the creditors. And we have to re-establish the justice system in order to ensure that there is, at the end, accountability for those who destroyed the country.
You talk about the country having been destroyed. Mm-hmm. Of course, Greece has been suffering in healthcare, welfare systems, salaries have gone down, pensions, there's brain drain and great unemployment. Maybe you can tell me a bit about the situation.
What happened to Greece is what would have happened to Iceland had you accepted to pay this debt that was not your own. What happened to Greece is that the people were burdened with a debt which did not belong to them, a debt created by corrupt governments, not only the Greek government but also the governments of the European Union and other governments like the US government. There were a lot of corruption cases, especially involving armaments, especially involving weapons, but also involving technology, like the great scandal of Siemens. There was also a big scandal concerning the banks, because basically the debt with which the Greeks were burdened was the equivalent of the German and the French banks' exposure to Greek state bonds. What we have established is that the Greeks were subjected to this absolutely undemocratic and absolutely atrocious system, the memorandum regime, just in order to save German and French banks, private banks, and subsequently Greek private banks. The outcome of this, which you asked me about, is misery, people committing suicide. There's an explosion of suicides, young children fainting at school out of starvation. We have had a lot of cases. Youngsters not being able to find a job in the country and being forced to emigrate, not out of their choice, but out of lack of perspective in their country. A lot of unemployment, 72% among young women at one point, and consecutive attacks on the people with cuts on their wages and on their pensions, with the imposition of taxes, and with the deprivation of access to public goods, with the privatization, large-scale privatization of our public property, everything, airports, ports, seashores, harbors, mines, archaeological places, the electricity company, the water company, the gas company, the railways, everything being privatized. And in the latest months, a very violent policy by the government to take away people's homes, to unleash a system of taking away, seizing people's properties because they are over-indebted to banks. Those same banks that were saved with public money, with the people's money.
You talk of this as if a great crime has been committed.
It is a crime, and actually let me say it very, very bluntly. I'm an international criminal law jurist.
Yes.
I'm a lawyer. My specialty is criminal law and international criminal law. This is a crime against humanity. This is a policy which is calculated to bring about the destruction of the population, and indeed it is bringing about the destruction of the Greek population and of the country.
But is there no, because there is talk of there is some growth now.
These are lies. These are lies. This is the pure propaganda of a system which wants to do away with Greece, which wants to say that Greece is over. This is the system that treated Greece as a game. You remember those days in 2015.
Yes, in the referendum, yes.
Everyone
I was there, I was in Greece at the time.
Game over. Well, Greece is not a game and it's not over.
But this is the left-wing regime of Alexis Tsipras. You, in the party, you were once a member of his party, you were the president of the Greek parliament. Has this party, has Tsipras failed totally?
Let me be very clear, this is not the left. Oh. And to accept that this is the left would be yet another great and grave mistake. These are people who used the left as their tool, as their medium in order to get to power, and when they got to power, they showed that they were all about power. The left is about the people. The left is about equality. The left is about democracy. The left is about the rights of the people. This government has attacked all social rights. It has even abolished the right to a strike just a month ago. This is a government which is implementing the most neoliberal program ever implemented.
But it is a left-wing party. Well, it is elected as a left-wing party.
It was elected as a left-wing party, and this is why I'm no longer a member of this party, and this is why all of us who believed in the commitments of the left are not part of this party anymore. This, make no mistake, this is not a government of the left. And I would say it's very important that very recently there was a very concrete demand on the part of the left party in France to expel Syriza from the European left party. I would say this is a very important action because it really puts things in the right dimension and it puts everyone before their responsibility. If the left in Europe or if the left around the world accepts that this kind of Thatcherism, the worst kind of Thatcherism, is implemented in the name of the left, then the left will lose all credibility before the people and it will lose its natural allies, which are the people.
But in the polls now, it's Neo Demokratia, the right-wing party, which is, well, they're probably set to win in the next elections.
Let me...
The classical, the old right.
Let me be very frank with you. My goal and our goal, our party's goal, Course to Freedom, is that they are crushed, both Syriza and Nea Demokratia. Our goal is that those parties who have a very big share in destroying the country are not, how to say, compensated at the elections. It's not true that there's a dilemma between Syriza and Nea Demokratia. This is just the system's propaganda in order to convince the people that they only have two choices. It's not true. The people have the choice to reclaim their rights, their lives, their dignity. They have the choice to trust a political force or political forces which are true to their commitments. We have proved we are. And I would say that democracy is wonderful precisely because it depends on each and every citizen. Each and every citizen has in his hands, in her hands, the possibility to change the course of history and to expel to the past all those who belong to the past.
Should Greece leave the European Union?
I would say it more bluntly. The European Union is now oppressing the Greek people. It's not an international association, an international organization of equal member states. It is a regime, a totalitarian regime, which has imposed itself upon the Greek people with the aid, with the help of the Greek government. So I would say the real goal is to overturn the European Union, overturn those oppressors, not just leave.
But Macron is actually for some debt relief, whereas the Germans are not. So the European Union is not totally, it's not totally coherent in this issue.
I don't have the same perception. I think there is, of course, a game of impressions, but the essence of the matter is that those governments and those officials have removed democracy from my country. Do you know that there are no laws passed in the Greek parliament unless they are pre-approved by the creditors?
By the Troika?
By the creditors, by the Troika. The
Yes.
Troika are those EU governments, both the French and the German and the French, and all those governments who participate in the European Commission and the European Central Bank. Do you know that there are 7,500-page laws passed in 24 hours? This was one of the latest achievements of Mr. Tsipras. 7,500 pages of legislation in 24 hours. Nobody reads them, nobody knows what they're about,
Yes.
and what the government has been doing is inserting a lot of dispositions there in order to aid themselves and establish corruption liaisons with the media, with the oligarchs, with all of those who participated in the big party against the people.
But then there is the argument that the Greeks are corrupt themselves. They don't pay their taxes. They cheat on their... Well, they cheat and they made a mess of it themselves.
Well, I would say this
That's
was...
what a lot of people in Europe are saying.
I think they said that about the Icelanders too, isn't it? They will say this about the people. They will say this about you and me, while they know that they are the ones who steal from the people. Right now, the Greek people do not have any money to pay anything, and yet they have taxes imposed upon them which require them to pay in taxes 96% of their revenues. Can you imagine that? Can you conceive what it means? It basically means a complete denial of the right to work, a complete denial of the right to create, of the right to prosper. And this has nothing to do with democracy. It has nothing to do with the left.
Could Greece have gone in a different direction with Brexit, with leaving the euro, defaulting on its debt? Would that have been possible?
The Greek debt is illegal. This has been established by the Truth Committee on Public Debt, which I instituted as President of Parliament. this was the first and only debt auditing committee ever established in EU soil. And this committee showed in its preliminary report in 2015 that the Greek debt is illegal, illegitimate, odious, and unsustainable. This means it could not and should not be paid by Greece and by the Greek people. This means that there was an obligation by the government to write off this debt. And unfortunately, the government didn't. This also means there was an obligation by the other governments and the European Union to participate in this write-off. Otherwise, it was imposing an illegal debt, and this is why it was participating in this international crime against the Greek people. Could it have gone another way? Of course. Of course, it should have gone another way. And I would say that there was what is now happening could never have been a choice. There was a referendum in my country, and 62% of the people said no to this program, no to the memoranda, no to repaying this illegal debt which they were not responsible for. Your referendum was respected. Our referendum was violated.
No turned into a yes in the hands of the government. No turned into a yes. That's definitely. But the question is,
but this doesn't mean that no does not stand.
Yes.
No still stands, and it is our duty to make sure that at the end the popular mandate, which was registered by a vote, is implemented.
But if we finish, could Greece go it alone, defaulting on this debt, and, for example, adopting the drachma instead of the euro? Is that a possibility?
I would say that in human history all possibilities are open, and it's the human history which has shown this. And you have a very vivid example yourselves about what is possible and what is impossible. You have an example of what you were threatened with and what was presented as impossible and what really happened. Let me say that we have had too much of propaganda. We have had too much of this modern Tina, there is no alternative. I think it's very important to show the people by the example that everything is possible, and in order to re-empower the people to claim what is their own, we need to liberate their access to information, liberate their access to communication, and this is what we have been doing in Greece through our movement.
Plevsin Eleftherias.
Plevsin Eleftherias,
yes.
Course to Freedom.
Yes, that is your political movement. So we could talk here all day. I am myself a bit passionate about these issues. Because
well, I'm at your disposal. What we have been doing in Greece during the last 2 weeks through our movement, through Course to Freedom, is that we established a new medium. It's called Freedom TV. And it is aiming at crushing the propaganda, the oligarchies which control the information in my country, all of them linked to either the government or the so-called opposition. And Freedom TV is a free medium, a free means of communication through which we show the people the real news, what's really happening, and we empower them to also participate in publicizing the truth. So we will be asking you for a message for our new medium, and we will be projecting this interview also in Freedom TV with your permission, of course.
I'd be happy to. So, ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ.
Ευχαριστώ και εγώ.
Þetta búið hjá okkur í dag. Takk fyrir að horfa.